Hi, folks. Thank you so much for taking your time and joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about what you need to know to prepare for a secure ServiceNow instance. And we have a lot of information to cover today. There's a lot that goes into this topic. And we're going to take the approach of taking this as a security journey. So going through a crawl, walk, run phase. And myself and Rebecca are here to present this information to you. We have Kelly on the back end who's supporting us with any questions that you might have. If you have questions, put them into the Q&A section of the Zoom program. So this way we can go and follow along. There's some that I'm going to be answering live. There's some that I'll be typing answers in. Kelly's here to answer those as well, and so is Rebecca. So we hope that you'll engage with us on this. So I'm going to move forward here and jump right in. And first thing I want to talk about is safe harbor. Safe harbor is basically don't make any purchasing decisions on forward-looking statements. Typically, we don't talk about things that are coming up in products, but we may. There are times when we may talk about something like a new integration or something like some feature that's available that is part of our more recent or more our next phase of our roadmap. And then what we'll do is we might push that back in our roadmap. So we want to make sure that you're not spending your money on forward-looking statements. You're already getting a huge amount of value out of ServiceNow, and we want to make sure that you're continuing to do that, and you're not just making decisions based on what you think we're going to do. It really make those decisions on based on the value that we're providing you out of the box today. So my name is Joe Pizzo. I've been with ServiceNow for 6.5 years. I am on the customer security and trust team, and we do a lot of things here on the customer security and trust team. And a little bit about me on the back end is I've been with the company, like I said, for 6.5 years. Prior to this, I worked for a number of different vendors and on the customer side. I've been doing this for a very long time. I will not date myself, but you could probably look me up on LinkedIn and see how long I've been doing this. My career does span, and some of you may have worked with me in the past when I was in a solutions consultant role here at ServiceNow or in other roles at other vendors. Rebecca?
Yeah, I'm Rebecca Harshani. I'm an information security analyst here at ServiceNow, also on the customer security and trust team, where we really just provide tools and guidance to customers to make sure that they're maintaining the highest level of platform security as possible. So we're so excited to be presenting to you all around instance security and how you can get started on your security journey.
Awesome.
All right, so just jumping into our learning outcomes for today. So we're really just hoping that you will walk away with more knowledge about how to secure your ServiceNow instances, understand where you're at in your security journey, and knowing all the resources that are available to help you throughout your security journey.
So we're going to focus up front on what is a ServiceNow instance. And when we break this down, we really want to talk about, what exactly do we do? Well, we provide our customers with a slice of you get an instance, and that instance is a piece of the environment that we provide. So the environment exists in 38 co-location facilities. It has a 24/7, 365 uptime, a 24/7, 365 technical support, and a 99.994% uptime. What you're getting out of this is you're getting basically everything that we build on our hardware stack. And our hardware stack is then exists on basically a hypervisor. And at that point, we have application servers and web servers that we carve up and databases that we carve up and we share those out to our customers so our customers can take advantage of developing workflows using Gen AI and agentic AI to really deliver some of the best employee and technology and IT um, workflows and use cases that you can imagine, really to make work better for people. Now, when we break this down, we really want to start thinking about, what are we doing as far as our co-location facilities and where we're hosting all of this stuff. We have these facilities that are protected and secure where we can go and store this information. And then on top of it, everything that we have is stored inside of the cage. And you need specific ability to get in there. So there's going to be things like physical security, and there's going to be like biometric and hardware based access controls in place in order to protect the individual data, the individual cages that are hosting the systems that are being served up to our customers. Sorry about that. My slide slowed down there for a second. So when we break this down, we want to think about when you log into your production environment, what are you seeing? Well, first you're logging in using TLS, right? So you're logging in, you're able to get in there, and then you have your app nodes with a database that are dedicated to your production environment, and they're serving information back to you. There's also the subprod environments, and those subprod environments are places where you can go and test and be able to work things through in your environment so that you can see if the applications that you're developing are working, if they're providing the functionality that you're looking to have provided, if they're if they're serving up the workflows that you've written and how they're and if they're working appropriately. It gives you a place to really test and work things out, and it provides for that user acceptance testing so that when you migrate this stuff over into your production environment, things are going to work flawlessly. So when we break this down, we want to ensure that customer data is protected as a top priority. And this is where we start thinking about like everything that we offer with a comprehensive portfolio of security capabilities. And this doesn't just cover platform. This covers all products that are out there. So if you're thinking of, well, I use ITAM or I use ITSM, this is all covered as well. So when we want to break this down, we want to talk about how we develop our apps. And first, we're developing secure apps using standardized practices to be able to make sure that we're reviewing code, analyzing, and responding to any issues that might pop up. Next, we have our encryption and key management, where we're able to protect the data at rest and make sure that the data is being protected in motion as well. We have auditing and monitoring to be able to look at all of the information about this and to be able to serve up information about what goes on and to provide for that audit stuff that you might have to provide to your risk team or to provide to your regulators when they come in and ask for it. For authentication and identity, we're able to identify and track who's accessing, how they're accessing, if they're accessing things securely, and we have tools to help manage and identify anything that might deviate from that. With our partners, we have, right, that number 80 is probably very low. That's probably on the platform side alone, but we have over 2,000 integrations across platform for all of our products. And that's a pretty comprehensive, number of integrations. Just for security, for our SecOps products, we probably have about 400 different. But when we start talking about platform security and platform information, we're talking about those 80 integrations right out of the gate just for that information. And then when we think about the controls, there's a lot of controls in place to help manage and identify anything that's going on across your environment so that we can see everything that's happening. And what this really does is it puts us into a position where we have a more secure and compliant infrastructure where we're hosting our data and we're able to feel like we trust where our data exists, because ultimately that's the biggest thing that we want to think about is, do we trust where we're putting our data? And that's our goal today, is for Rebecca and I to help you work through getting to understand and to know what are some of the options available for you when it comes to trust, and being able to put that data in so you can adopt that workflow, adopt those Gen AI and those agentic AI practices to really take advantage of the things you're paying for. Now, we have a poll that we're going to be kicking off, but one thing I do want to point out is that if you look up here in the corner, there's a QR code, and that QR code is pointing to the customer security portal. You're going to see the customer security portal pop up in this presentation, but I wanted to point this out because I'm going to be I'm going to be turning off my video while you answer this poll. I don't think everyone wants to see my face the whole time. So I'm going to turn my camera off, and we're going to be able to focus directly on the content of this. But for the poll question, what is your level of confidence in securing a ServiceNow instance? And I can't encourage you enough to answer this because I really want you to evaluate yourself and how you feel about this. so that at the end, when we answer this question, when we ask this question again, we want to know if you're still feeling, if you don't feel confident, what can we do to help make you feel more confident? And that's really what the purpose of these polls are. So I'm going to turn my camera off. I'm going to let you folks answer those questions, and then I'll share those results, and we'll keep moving throughout the presentation. All right. I took a sip of my drink while I muted out there for a second. So I'm going to end the poll now. Let's share the results. And we see that there are some folks that are not very confident. We see some that are somewhat confident. What I really like about these polls is that, you know, I'm I've been doing this for a long time, and you know, I try not to call myself an expert. And when I see these polls and I see people who are saying they feel extremely confident in their level of securing the instance, or they feel like they're an expert in some form of, technology and securing that technology. It always makes me second guess because, I know people have been doing this for a long time and they've never felt like an expert. And maybe some of that is imposter syndrome, right? And maybe some of that is that we know that the technology is constantly changing. So what we really want to do is we want people to feel confident. And I love that people feel somewhat confident and not extremely confident, because extremely confident makes me feel uneasy.
All right. Yeah. So now just kind of going through how security is a journey and not a destination. So we're just kind of going to walk through the crawl, walk, and run phases. So in the crawl phase, we're going to discuss different resources, how to update your security contacts, and different software updates. So jumping into the shared responsibility model, as you can see, there are three different areas of responsibility, one of them being the customer, then also obviously ServiceNow and the co-location facilities, which are our data center providers. So here we see that some of these responsibilities overlap, such as compliance and employee vetting or screening. And in other cases, it's only in one area, such as the secure configuration of an instance, which lands under the customer responsibility. Now, I know that the customer responsibility list may seem daunting. However, that's why we're here to help assist customers into starting their security journey. And that's really what we're here to talk about today. But before we go into it, there is a QR code for you to scan. You can go ahead and trust this QR code. We made them ourselves. It's not a random QR code you just find out in the public. So we really encourage you to go in there and scan it. It'll take you to our shared responsibility model, where it really just breaks it down into all the different sections where you'll be able to review it later. All right, so no matter who you are or where you are, we're here to help you. If you're a potential or new customer, you're able to go to the trust site on servicenow.com to find the security white papers, different compliance and privacy documents, and industry solutions. And for existing customers already using the platform but wanting to maybe conduct some due diligence, you are able to find the core compliance portal, documentation, to help evaluate ServiceNow security, privacy, and compliance, and just browse through different security knowledge and many more resources on the Trust Center on Now Support. And then there's also a partner portal where partners can assist new customers with white papers, compliance documents, and pen testing documents, and a bunch of other resources as well. So now just diving into some additional resources, starting off with the core compliance portal. This is a place where customers can go to self-serve documentations for audit and assessment requirements. And the next important item is the Security Best Practices Guide, which gives an overall view of how to get started on your security journey. It really just covers a wide variety of topics in which you can just look over and understand the best practices on how to secure your instances. And then finally, there's updating your security contacts. And this is really essential to ensuring your security team gets notified of anything important ServiceNow has to communicate. So please go ahead and scan all three of these QR codes and really ensure this will really just ensure that you have all of those resources to set you up for success throughout your security journey.
I'm going to add one more thing. I really, Rebecca and I will be on with customers all the time. And one of the things we hear from our customers who are typically in the security organization or they're security practitioners, and they're really not involved with ServiceNow. And I'm giggling while I say this because I'll hear from customers and they'll say to Rebecca and I, well, we never hear from you. And we'll have these security people who have never been involved with ServiceNow kind of accuse us of not reaching out to them. And we have access to their, to their contact information because we're the ones, it's part of our team that reaches out when there's an issue. And I'll go in and I'll look and I'll say, well, the reason why you don't hear from us is because you haven't worked with your admin to make sure that they know to contact you. Your name is not here. So if you really want to hear from us, you need to reach out to your admin. You need to make sure that they're including you in the security contacts. So that if you have a distribution list and there's something that happens, because like any other company, we have security events. We identify things that are happening. We try to do it before, someone else identifies it. We let our customers know about it. So if you really want to know, and you're planning on calling us out, plan for us to call you out if your information isn't in there, and then work with your admin to make sure that that's there. Sorry, Rebecca, I kind of can't help myself.
No, that's great. Yeah, great information and a great story. All right. So, yeah, just kind of going deeper into the core compliance portal. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is the core compliance portal, and customers here are able to self-serve, audit, and assessment documents here. So, some of the documents here can include ServiceNow certifications and attestations, or SOC 1 Type 2 and SOC 2 Type 2 reports, internal policies and SOPs, data center certifications, and the SIG and CIQ, which are pre-filled vendor questionnaires, and many, many more resources that are really helpful. And then again, just the security best practices guide. It's an easy to follow guide to the main security features provided by ServiceNow platform and how to best use them to secure an instance. So this guide is really just specifically aimed at those who are tasked with the responsibility of keeping a ServiceNow instance secure. And it really just touches on a variety of different topics, such as access control, encryption, and other considerations. So you can really just find it in a bunch of different places, some of them being on the ServiceNow support or on the partner portal, and also on just servicenow.com under playbooks.
So when we think about this, we want to think about what are we doing with patching and upgrading? And if you're familiar with ServiceNow, you're familiar with the emails that you receive about patching your instance. Um, ServiceNow instances undergo regular patching to maintain security and performance. So there's a lot of things that are going on in these patches. So sometimes it'll help, speed up how fast things are processing. Sometimes it'll secure maybe a configuration that was deemed to not be a configuration anymore, and now it's part of a patch program. So the ServiceNow patching program helps you ensure your platform software is kept up to date, and you can take advantage of our automated patching service to assist with this stuff. Typically, there are also two major version updates a year, and you'll see this year we did, Yokohama and Zurich is coming out at the end of the year. So what we want to make sure is that our customers are staying on top and patching and upgrading. Now we know that with user acceptance testing, you really can't upgrade, on a whim when something is released. And typically what we see our customers do is they maintain an N-1. We suggest strongly an N-1. It's not going to hurt you to be N-2 or even N-3. But we need you to think about having a plan because though we can make some of these backwards compatible, some patch technology backwards compatible, what we can't do is we can't make sure that everything is there because with each version change, there are some changes to the structure of how things work. So we try to encourage our customers to stay at that N-1 so that they're as close to that goal line as possible. And really, we want to get you to understand that patching is important. There will be times that you will reach out to us and say, hey, I've been using automated patching and I can't do it now because we just rolled out a new application and this application is helping us drive revenue. What can you do to help us? And that's where our OCISO team can come in and assist with maybe working with you on identifying potential compensating controls that can fix maybe certain things that might be part of the patches that might be security related. So really take a hard look at what you're doing, work with your admins to make sure that they understand the need for patching, and make sure that you're on top of that stuff and have a plan. If your plan is to be N-2 every year, then have that plan and stay on that plan. But make sure you're patching because those patches are still backwards compatible. And you wouldn't believe the number of customers that we have that are still running on things like, Madrid or New York. And, they're at this point like N-8. And that's pretty far back. So we can't stress security contacts enough. I know Rebecca talked about this a couple of slides back and I chimed in on it, but really we want you to go through and hit that QR code that she had in her slide and follow the instructions on how to get this stuff in there. Get information in there so that you have the owners and business leaders of security, have them notified of what's going on in your environment so they can go and they can take advantage and act quickly. Because realistically, if you're not acting fast and there's something that's out there that you can potentially avoid, we need you to start avoiding that. Now, you can include in those security contacts a mailing list, and that mailing list can include your admin of the platform. So they can do some of the work because there are some tools that we have in place that can help alleviate some of that work so that they can go and they can take on some of the security responsibility and just double check back with the security team. But you should be aware of this and make sure that if there are any incidents or any type of functionality that security needs to be aware of, they're there and they understand what's going on there. Now, one thing I love about this is that we're always trying to do better. We really want to make sure that our customers are in a position to feel really confident in the product. And I think that, when we start looking at like big tech and FANG companies, ServiceNow falls into that category. And we're the ones that are leading the way. If you look at even some security technologies out there, they don't really have tools to secure their products or their platforms. And realistically, we want to hold these companies to a higher standard. So we're always constantly developing new services, new tools, new guidance for how to deal with our products that we're serving up to our customers because our customers are the most important asset that we have. So we've developed the ServiceNow Customer Security Portal. And this is where you can go and get security notifications. You can see if there are any CVEs or advisories or anything that's out there, any information related to patching that you might need to really be concerned with. There's documentation up there about security that includes best practices, guidance, and white papers. And then finally, there's some compliance certifications. It's going to mirror a little bit, and there's going to be some overlap between core and between the security portal, but we're going to be constantly developing these in order to provide a single place for our customers to really take advantage of what's going on with the security of their instance. Because really, we want you to understand that the ServiceNow AI platform is there to serve you and serve you well and serve you with confidence. So when we break this down, we have this commitment to security. We want to provide credible executive views for them to go in and see this information, any news and updates that are available around security, being able to provide the links to detailed best practices, verify any compliance so that you can share this with your auditor, so that you can share this with your regulators and know confidently that you're in a place that you're going to pass those audits and your regulators are going to be very happy with it. And quickly answer any questions that you might have with AI, because we're using some of our own AI bots that are out there to be able to talk about this. So you'll see the AI agents in action on the security portal. And what this does is this provides that public transparency transparency, and precision on what matters when it comes to the security of the platform. So realistically, what we want to do is we want to increase the trust and confidence about how you feel about the ServiceNow AI platform so that you start adopting, you start including more data, you know that that data is safe, and you can take advantage of the agentic, the Gen AI, and all of the workflows that are available to you. It's really just another way for us to help make sure and maintain that confidence in the platform.
Yeah, and another great place to just start your security journey is to really just look at the best practices tab inside Security Center. So it really just gives clear guidance on how to apply certain overall best practices that can be adopted by most organizations, and really just has a really easy crawl, walk, run journey that can be easily followed. So as you see in the image, there's the best practices, which kind of shows you how many you've completed on the graph, and next to it you can also see the different maturity levels of which of the ones you have completed, such as, build a foundation, enhance the experience, and optimize all of that functionality.
So we've talked a little bit about the crawl stage, right? And the crawl stage covers the things that we really need to think about moving forward. So making sure that we're updating and accessing core, that we're updating our security contacts, that we've viewed the best practices, that we've looked at the actual best practices in Security Center. When we think about all this, there's a lot of things that go into that crawl phase. Now, I know when we think about this, and I'm not someone who enjoys running. When I think about the journey that I'm on, I want this journey to ultimately end up being in a place of comfort, right? If you've ever done any backpacking or long-term walking or something, or even like distance running, you don't want to be running at a pace that you're going to exhaust yourself. So realistically, we want to do the crawl, we want to do the walk, and then we kind of want to trot. We want to make sure that our path, we expect that there's going to be some rough portions, but really we want to make sure that we can handle those rough portions and then just move briskly, whether we're walking, jogging, or trotting. We don't want to sprint. And thank you for sticking through this on the crawl. And now we're going to jump into the walk phase. And when we break this down, when we think about securing a ServiceNow instance, there are really three different areas. And there's the invisibles, the configurables, and the enhanceables. Now, the invisibles are really the things that we do on the back end to make sure that things are working the way they should be. So things like our physical security and environmental controls, making sure that our infrastructure and having it distributed worldwide is making sure that that stuff has a guaranteed uptime. And we think that our guaranteed uptime is pretty freaking great. Sure, there's that 1,000th of a percent that we could always get up to those three nines. I think we could get there. But realistically, we're doing a lot to make sure that the things that you don't see happening are secure. Then there are the configurables, and now is where we're going to start talking about some of those configurables where we can restrict access to apps. We've scoped applications that we're using across the platform with different products that you might purchase. We have data and privacy and logging and monitoring and instance hardening and encryption in place so that you know that your data is safe. When we start talking about enhanceables, that's where we get to that trot, that run, maybe that short sprint, but we want to get to that place where we're just slightly moving faster than a walk, where we're really understanding what's going on. And when it comes down to it, when we think about some of the industry risks and the availability of what's happening across these environments and how do you maintain this stuff, we have to start thinking about like things like code injection and unauthorized access, or maybe even authorized people accidentally accessing things, or malware or malicious files and upload. And this all leads to instability. And what we want to provide to our customers is full stability. And that's what we're doing. That's why we really focus on that uptime, and we focus on making sure that you have the tools available to you to make the necessary changes to avoid any potential exploits. Maybe not all, but to avoid the majority of them. So here's another poll question. What is your experience with ServiceNow Security Center? And this is going to be a big portion of what we're going to talk about now. You've never heard of it. I've heard of it, but have never used it, or I use it regularly. Now, again, I ask that you answer these questions because realistically, when we think about this, we're going to ask this question at the end, and then we're going to talk about some other things that might be available to you and to be able to use this and some trainings that are available as well. All right, we got some answers here. I'm gonna end the poll now. And I see two answers if I never heard of it. Um, Realistically, this is part of platform. So let's jump right into that. So when we look at this, this is kind of like my mic drop. This is one of the big responsibilities of my job is really working on the direction of the ServiceNow Security Center. And this ties to this slide really well. And a lot of people might look at this and say, yeah, 99% of cloud breaches will be traced back to preventable misconfigurations. Yeah, everyone says that, sure. Everyone does say that. And every security company out there will sit there and tell you 0 day, 0 day, 0 day. I'm not going to tell you that. But what I am going to tell you is that our adversaries only have to be correct one time. So we have to be on our guard all the time. We have to be right every single time. Because if we ignore a simple configuration that could be changed, and that leads to some type of exploit, some type of breach, some type of loss of data, then that problem is ours. And you can roll your eyes and say, yeah, more than 99% of cloud breaches will be traced back to preventable, yada, yada, yada. Um, Realistically, you're kind of like poking fun at yourself as well because we need to take this stuff seriously because when we start looking at the history of what's going on across the world with breaches, it's usually something simple. It's usually something that's out there that's available to be fixed. Changing a default admin password is a pretty big configuration misstep when it's not done. um, Leaving a public share opened is a pretty big misstep when we can configure it to be closed. These are things that we really need to think about. So they're things that we can really put in place to protect ourselves. And this is where Security Center comes in.
Right. So now addressing all of the people who mentioned that they've never heard of Security Center, so you're in luck. We're gonna kind of talk about a couple of the highlighted feature groups here. So the first one being security hardening, which is going to give us a score based on our security configurations and will also really just be the main area to configure different hardening settings. Security metrics is the area where customers can monitor different security metrics that occur in the instance, such as failed login attempts, MFA logins, and other metrics that you may want to monitor. And then Security Scanner enables admins to scan their instances against a set of security checks to really just look for any misconfigurations or insecure behaviors. In security learning, we can find resources to learn more about the different components in Security Center and just overall knowledge, such as compliance documents, portals, and resources. And then finally, we have the best practices, which we touched on a little bit earlier. And it really just gives guidance on how to apply certain overall best practices that can be adopted by most, if not all, organizations, and really just gives a crawl, walk, run journey to easily follow. So now just to talk about these different security center topics. So security is obviously a top concern, and really just accelerating and taking advantage of these tools will really be extremely helpful. And we also really like to mention that Security Center is available without any additional cost. So here are just some additional resources. There's documentation, and then the two middle ones are the Now Learning Training and also the video library. So those will be able to really just talk you through more in depth and also more information about Security Center and about the crawl and walk and run phases. And then obviously the last one is the Security Best Practices Guide that we've already touched on earlier.
Yeah, and if you like the sound of my voice, that video library is a bunch of it's a bunch of recordings that I created, and I guarantee you I will put you to sleep or I will haunt your nightmares. So check out the video libraries, check out the Now Learning training. That's really going to be the place where you can go and take those classes. I want to apologize. My mic died while I was about to start presenting, and thank you, Rebecca, for stepping in there.
Yeah, of course. All right. So now we're really just at the point of where you may be like wondering, how do I even get to Security Center in the first place? So if this is your first time going into Security Center, you can go to the top left corner of your instance where there's the All drop-down menu and just go ahead and search Security Center. And it should be able to pop up. And we do recommend that you favorite this tab for easy access in the future. So if you want to do that, you can just hover over Security Center that popped up in the All drop-down menu and really just click that star on the right. And then you should be able to find it in your favorites drop-down menu from there on out. Another option is if you have visited Security Center recently, you can go back to it through your History tab. And also, if you have an admin role, there is also a quick way to get to it through your admin drop-down menu, as you can see on the image on the right.
This is typically where if Rebecca and I are doing a demo, we'll encourage our customers to open up Security Center while we're on and take a look and poke around so that, they can see and follow along with us. And I think that realistically, this is something that everyone should be taking advantage of. It really puts the power of being able to control some of what's happening when it comes to security into the customer's hands. They can really take advantage of this. So one of the things I suggest is just jump into Security Center. Go in and understand some of the security related tasks that are there, some of the instant security details that are available, identifying the Security Center consoles and start familiarizing yourself with navigation, and then look for some of the available resources that are part of Security Center. They mirror some of the documents, the documentation that's available in Core and on the customer security portal. So you'll be able to take advantage of both of those to be able to move forward and jump right in and start using this to secure your environments.
Right. So now we're just going to kind of touch on logging and monitoring. So logging really occurs in two different layers in the environment. First, which is in a ServiceNow instance and is available and managed by the customer. And the second one, which is within the infrastructure and is only visible and monitored by authorized ServiceNow security staff. So the customer managed logs can see transaction and event logs, all field changes, and all of this is available through a GUI and table views and is stored directly within the customer instance. It's also good to mention that syslog is also available through a mid-server architecture. And now just to touch on the ServiceNow managed logs, which it contains mainly infrastructure, operating system, and network centralized monitoring. So it also really encompasses the administrative access monitoring and auditing. So it really just gives visibility into like cloud availability and also capacity management. All right, and now into customer managed access control, which is extremely important. First, let's discuss identification and authorization or authentication, sorry. So ServiceNow is able to use many different single sign-on and authentication protocols, such as LDAP, SAML 2.0, Digest Authentication, OpenID Connect, and SCIM. Customers are also able to have local database authentication. And then for authorization, there is role-based access control and role inheritance. So access control engine really allows for multi-level access control list rule sets and also context-based securing of records. So and all of these are access controls that are auditable.
So when we think about this, we want to think about, how are we using some of this authentication, right? So adaptive authentication uses policies to evaluate authentication requests, and based on those policies, either deny or access to a customer, either allows or denies access to a customer instance. Time limited authentication is also available for the customer. So really, contextual policies can be used to restrict access to customer instances for users, devices, APIs based on criteria like IP addresses, device names, device types, geolocation, and so on. There's so many different ways of providing for adaptive auth. Realistically, this puts the power of having stronger authentication methods into the hands of the customer. And this is where we can either you have that strong authentication or you're denied access. So this is really something that we can start thinking about and making sure that we're not just using things like local logon. We're taking advantage of the different methods of authentication, and we're taking advantage of being able to use that authentication to authorize us into the systems that we need to get to. Next, there's email security. And we think about email security, we want to think about like what we're restricting. And when we break this down, we want to be able to restrict file types. So only allow or accept approved file types that are being sent across email. So we don't want to be able to receive, you know, um, some type of virus that might be sent out. That's something that'll be quarantined. When we think about restricting domains, we want to configure which domains are available to communicate with our instance. And then having filters to filter out spam and malware scanning so that we can protect our systems from any type of potential negative impacts that would happen through emails. And then finally, using SPF and DKIM and DMARC to be able to protect against spoofing of maybe a user, location, device, and so on. And this really puts that power in our hands. And this leads us right into our run phase, or as I like to call it, our trot phase, because ultimately we want to get to a point where we're able to make sure that we're secure and then add in the more advanced functions as we determine that they're necessary. Not everything might be necessary. Now, ServiceNow data classification, I put this into the more advanced configurable because data classification is part of the product. You can go in and use the data classification tool, and you can identify and organize things into different types of data based on, maybe specific, access to it, like restricted, confidential, internal, PII information, and being able to map that out so that we can determine who has access to it and allowing customers to organize sensitive data so that they can determine how it's going to be sorted, retrieved, and protected. This really enables support for visibility into the types of data hosted on the ServiceNow AI platform. And this ensures compliance with privacy laws, meeting regulations for regulatory requirements for different industries. Data classification comes with an overview dashboard that customers can go and use to understand their current data tables and how they map to different data classifications. It's really powerful. And in fact, some of these same tables or some of these same report views are available in the ServiceNow Security Center. So you can kind of get like a bird's eye view of what's going on across security from one place, and that's the ServiceNow Security Center application. When we start thinking about encryption, we have all different types of encryption that's available to us, from edge encryption all the way to full disk encryption. And this is going to be dependent on what you're really looking to do and what type of business you operate in, And what are your regulatory needs? Where we might see full disk encryption is something that we would see for governments or our GCC customers, and our FedRAMP customers will have full disk encryption needs. Maybe we'll have a higher level of encryption for a financial customer, but maybe retail customers really only require edge encryption. And that's really just that encryption that's happening over communication. So we have options for all different types of encryption that's available. Now, out of the box, there is the encryption that is the column level encryption. So this is where you can go and have it so that only authorized users can access specific fields. The second component that makes up platform encryption in this case is the column level encryption. Once the whole database is encrypted with cloud encryption, customers can then use column level encryption enterprise to encrypt selected fields, which ensure that only authorized employees can access those specific fields. It kind of serves as a traffic light protocol when it comes to encryption. There's other ways to enable traffic light protocol, but that's probably the best analogy I can make for this level of encryption. Now, when we go into the enhanceables and we start going into some of the more advanced, there are some things that you can pay for. And ServiceNow Vault is one of those. And like I mentioned, there are going to be dependencies based on your needs. Not every customer will need every function of ServiceNow Vault. So you may not require platform encryption. You may get away with obfuscating your instance name and using advanced third-party MFA authentication and even obfuscating and creating unique usernames. But you might also need data privacy. You might need log export service. You might need code signing or some type of zero trust. And that's where ServiceNow Vault comes into play. And we have a couple of the features that we're going to highlight here in the next couple of slides. So when we think about this, we want to think about the first component is cloud encryption, right? And this encrypts all data within the database at the OS level, ensuring that all database records, attachments, logs are encrypted with no impact to application functionality. So this means that including this encryption will not slow down how you're using the product. You're going to be able to take advantage of this and know that you have that FIPS 142 level 3 validated hardware to protect those keys in the key management system that we have in place. So you're going to be able to take advantage of that.
Another important aspect of a comprehensive security strategy is really just conducting regular penetration tests. So, penetration tests involve simulating a cyber attack on your ServiceNow instance to identify vulnerabilities and weaknesses in your security defenses. And by conducting these tests, you can really gain valuable insights into your security posture and take steps to address any issues before they can be exploited by attackers. So there are two different penetration tests, one of them being conducted by a third party, which can be found on the core compliance portal. And then the other one, which is conducted by customers, which customers are able to initiate a pen test allowed once per calendar year, and they must follow all ServiceNow testing policies.
Awesome. Now we have another poll question for you. We're going to get through this one pretty quickly. Where do you feel you are in your security journey with ServiceNow? Crawl, walk, or run? All right.
Seems like we're 50-50 on crawl and walk.
Yeah, I love it. That's actually really good. I mean, I think the crawl phase is really where we want you to get on that journey, get on it and start it. So I'm going to end this poll and I'm going to jump into the next couple of slides because we are running low on time. I kind of warned at the beginning. So when we think about security is in your hands, we want you to restrict the access to the application, restrict access within an application, make sure that you have operational security in place to monitor, manage, and export those logs and create alerts. We want you to integrate with existing tools to be able to identify those privileged access management tools or CMDB and orchestration tools and export mid-server logs to an existing SIM, get this data out there. And then finally have like data security so that you know that in transport or at rest, you can go and you can understand that this data is going to be secure, protected, and you're not going to have to worry about it. And then security integrations to understand what's happening there, client-side configuration, infrastructure security capabilities when it comes to Vault, and then go back and follow this circle. This is going to be a circle that you're going to continue to stay on. It's a journey that you're going to follow. We have another poll question here. And this poll question is, after this presentation, what is the likelihood that you will use Security Center moving forward? Not likely, possibly I need to understand more. I can't wait to use Security Center. One thing I really want to point out is that we host these on a regular basis. And if you go to the same registration portal that you went to, you can also find recordings of what's happening there. And you can go back to those videos and you can take those training classes to understand even more. So that there's a great way to really get out there. And I'm seeing that we're really looking at like a close split between I can't wait to use Security Center and possibly I need to understand more. So I think that that's fantastic. Getting in and jumping into this is really going to help out with this. So one of the call for actions I have is to identify where you are. And you've already done that in the poll, and I think that's great. Next is to secure your instance, review the shared security model, go back to take advantage of that QR code, search for that, pull that information up, review the model, understand the security center, review the video so you can go through and understand exactly what's going on. And then if you're on a pre-Vancouver, or sorry, a pre-Vancouver for Utah, you need to install this. Anything after, you don't need to install. So it'll be part of your platform. So if you're pre-Vancouver, you can go and use, and you have to go to the store and install. And then leverage available resources, product documentation, platform security, security best practices guide. Reach out to your account teams. Get them to get the office of the CISO involved and make a field security request. Ask for Rebecca and myself. Our partner Gail is also available to work on things like Security Center and to talk our customers through some of this journey and being able to coach what's happening there. We have teams dedicated to making sure that our customers are supported for the security of their ServiceNow AI platform. Last poll question. Um, let's go back to that first question we asked in the beginning. That first question that I asked you to really make sure, what is your level of confidence in securing a ServiceNow instance? Do you feel better than you did when we started? How do you feel now? Do you feel somewhat confident, neutral, not very confident? You still have no idea where to begin? All of these are great answers. We want you to get your account team involved so that they can go and reach out to us and get us to help you, because we want you to feel more confident and we want you to feel like you can secure this and that you have this under control. So think about this, get in touch with your admins, get in touch with your sales team, and have them get in touch with us so that we can assist you in moving forward. Finally, if you have any questions, let's throw them into the QA. Because there really are, yeah, we really want to serve you folks. So please ask those questions. And then there's some takeaways. Security Center is free. It's part of platform. It improves an organization's security posture, and then system admins can leverage this. You don't have to be a security expert to do this. Now, I don't see any questions coming through. So I'm on behalf of myself, Rebecca, and Kelly, I want to thank you for joining us. We know your time is valuable. We know that, it takes effort to pull time out of your day to join these things. So I'd like to thank you. And Rebecca, if you have anything else you want to add, jump right in.
Yeah, I'm just gonna thank everyone for being here and for listening through this hour-long presentation with us. And again, if you have any questions, we still have 2 minutes, so please go ahead and enter them into the Q&A. We want to make sure that no one leaves with any questions or uncertainties. So, and yeah, again, if you have any questions, please go ahead.
All right, no questions. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining us. And really, it was a pleasure to be able to spend this time with you and make it a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.